the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie Bremen and conductor Paavo Järvi, musical allies on a mission to create a new Beethoven. They want their version of the Beethoven symphonies to suit the 21st century. They call it the Beethoven Project.
Why another cycle? Who needs another cycle? We will always need another cycle.
Bremen in northern Germany. From here, the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie is conquering the musical world. Paavo Järvi has been the orchestra's artistic director since 2004, and since then almost anything seems possible. Sold-out concerts, resounding world tours, and acclaimed recordings. The next milestone, performances of all 9 Beethoven symphonies at the Beethovenfest in Bonn.
When I met them and I heard them play Beethoven, it became clear that this sounds how I want it to sound.
It took years until we were able to produce our characteristic sound quickly.
At this point, a different mood suddenly comes in. A fateful mood, as I see it.
Beethoven was a humanist. He did not compose only for a concert audience. He had a message for the whole of humanity.
And his message is being heard around the world. The Beethoven Project spells success for the orchestra.
30 years ago, when they started, the prospects were not good. It was only going to happen if people believed in the impossible.
Our views on how things should sound in Beethoven symphonies coincided. And the willingness to go deeper and find the little details and obsess on every detail, which I love about this orchestra because they are obsessive, like I am.
The Kammerphilharmonie has arrived at the Beethovenfest in Bonn, one of Europe's most renowned music festivals. The musicians are excited ahead of the first concert. Their Beethoven Marathon, 9 symphonies in 4 days, is beginning.
To be able to actually prepare the 9 symphonies and have physical stamina to play all these big pieces in a row is a major challenge. Every piece has its own completely different character. So you have to be a kind of a chameleon, like an actor. You have to go from a classical symphony to more profound symphony, go back to a different character in the next symphony, and it requires a very quick ability to adjust. And for musicians who are playing every single note of it and giving as much from themselves as possible, this kind of adjustment is very difficult because you are not only a machine who plays the notes, you get emotionally involved.
Beethoven was delivered with such rhythmicality and such drama, and yet at the same time with such rhetorical precision. It was the symphonic sensation of this year's festival. That's a great review.
There's not much time to relax. The musicians have to be in their places for the morning dress rehearsal. They're used to the stress of concerts, but this is a little different. Here in Bonn, the Kammerphilharmonie is not only performing for the audience in the concert hall.
It's not routine, it's something special. You begin to realize that expectations are exceptionally high. The whole world will be able to look at the DVD and the live cinema transmission. There's no safety net anymore.
Absolutely great. Next movement, please. Second movement. On time. Stand by for a tempo.
8 cameras are being used to film the concerts. Certain passages are shot ahead of time during the dress rehearsals. It's not only the musicians who are being tested to the limits by this Beethoven marathon. Their instruments, too, have to deliver an extraordinary performance. Frederica Latzko has a problem with her Italian viola. Concertmaster Florian Donderer accompanies her to the workshop of Stefan Peter Greiner, a Bonn violin maker. Many members of the Kammerphilharmonie have been his customers for years.
Don't be alarmed when you look at it. I stuck it with tape because there was a splinter sticking out.
It's okay, we can deal with that.
Latzko's instrument has been through a lot over the years. It was made in 1785 in the Cerutti workshop in the northern Italian city of Cremona.
Ooh, I knew that wasn't a good idea.
When you take a plaster off an open wound, you pull off the scab with it. It's the same here.
It's just the scab.
We're not damaging the original varnish, just where it's been touched up in the past. It's not a problem.
Greiner patches up the venerable instrument with a little varnish and great care. Ready for the next concert.
It's a love affair. It was great luck that I got this viola. And the moment I first played a note on it, I was so moved by the sound. Since then, I've been in love with it. But it's also what I earn my living with. I have a practical attitude. It's both things. And I like that.
I am so sorry.
It's the end of a long day. Halfway through the Beethoven cycle, there's time to relax a little. 2 concerts done, 2 still to come.
This symphony was very special because somehow it wasn't like this. It was like a bigger picture.
I love it.
Fantastic. Bravo. 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 Bravo.
In spite of the tight schedule, the musicians and the conductor do have some free time between rehearsal and concert. A moment to gather strength for the evening, which each of them does in his or her own way.
Hey, listen, I'm actually going to the Beethoven's house now, so probably I will see you there. What time are you arriving?
Being able to unwind in between is extremely important. Then you have the energy again in the evening. But we're all very different in how we approach it. Everyone has their own rhythm.
Earlier on, we were discussing whether we were really going to go for it tonight or whether we would go for safety. But of course, we agreed we would go for it, as always. We can't play with the handbrake on.
A few streets away in the center of Bonn, the house where Ludwig van Beethoven was born in 1770. Today, it's a museum and research center.
Ludwig. Hello.
Hello, Járvi. Welcome in the Beethoven house in Beethoven's birthplace.
The Beethoven House holds the largest collection of Beethoven materials anywhere. Museum director Michael Ladenburger shows Paavo Järvi around the exhibition. Paintings, documents, and instruments owned by Beethoven give a glimpse into the life of the composer.
Yeah, things have certainly developed. I always struggled with an idea that Beethoven was actually a human being, because growing up in my family, Mozart, Beethoven, Brahms, Haydn, Bach, they were gods, they were not humans. And yet you have a place where he was born. Here you have all the things that put him back on earth for you. You see his manuscript, you see his handwriting. At the end of the day, it's nothing in arts can be really definitive, especially in performing arts, because even with the same text, very often the outcome of the performance is radically different, because the text is a starting point. It all has to do with choices. Basically, every performer has to make, at the end, his own or her own choices.
doesn't get better than this. We're done. Great. Fantastic. That was probably one of the best concerts ever. I just said this to like, exactly right. Thank you. It was one of the best concerts we played, actually.
Thank you. Yeah, they can't wait.
Great, bravo, fantastic, really great. Great, good job. Hey.
We rocked them.
Yeah.
Bravo.
That's fantastic.
Fantastisch. Vor allem die 7. Wunderbar.
Ja. As long as we'll be performing the Beethoven symphonies, they will always be slightly different. There's no way of making an identical performance. It simply doesn't work that way. One of the things that I value most about doing those cycles is that I feel that the next one can be a little bit better because I've learned something from one before. And I feel that I know how to do them better, and I feel that orchestra and I have a closer communication because we've been through this process. The view is changing all the time. The view hasn't stopped changing. The only thing that we need to do is to keep up, to make sure that we are not getting comfortable with all our sort of successes, but keep on looking for new things, keep on trying to see how far we can go with these pieces. And you know, the interesting part about doing a cycle like this, it tests your own emotional and physical limits. And once you learn how to deal with your limits, you can go further.
Inside the Beethovenhalle, but also out in the market square, thoughts are turning to the climax of the Beethoven project. The concert is being relayed to an outside audience on a big screen. In total, 6,000 people will be able to hear Beethoven's masterpiece. The Kammerphilharmonie is supported by the Deutsche Kammerchor and 4 soloists.
I'm not necessarily sure that by just listening to this music, that Beethoven necessarily believed that all of the men are brothers, and I don't necessarily think that he believed that all of those great concepts are achievable. I almost feel that he knew that it isn't the case, but it was his hope that it could be. I don't even know how to describe that feeling, because you have a feeling, there are so many layers and levels of how one feels. First of all, you feel completely exhausted, but you also feel completely elevated. There is more adrenaline in that room by the time the Ninth Symphony is finished than anywhere else.